இன்னைக்கு அவங்களோட ரெக்கார்டிங் இருக்காது. சரி. ஜபோ ஜல்ப ஷில்பம் சகலமபி முத்ரா விரச்சனா கதி பிராதக்ஷிண்ய கிரமணமசனாத்யாஹுதி விதிஹ பிரணாம சம்வேஷः சுகமகிலமாத்மார்ப்பணதృஷா சபரியா பரியாயः தவ பவது யன்மே விலசிதம். 27th verse. Japo Jalpa Shilpam. It's a very beautiful verse. And this verse appears when someone is able to completely dwell in the thoughts of the a higher ideal or the divine, anything that you hold higher than yourself. Such a verse can appear or come as a reflection of your state. Okay, so we'll go through what it means, but I'm setting this context to say that this appears as a reflection of one's state, and can also be it cannot be used lightly. This particular verse, when we go through it, you'll understand you can't use it lightly as an escape from what we need to do. This verse is an expression of a state which within you you're tuned in. When somebody is tuned in, then this verse makes a lot of sense. There is a possibility of misusing this also, this verse, if it's not understood in the correct essence. So let's look at what it means. So Adi Shankara is saying, Japo Jalpaha Shilpam, O mother. So he is addressing Devi. He is saying, Japaha is Japam that we do. The Japam that we do is Japaha, which is your the chants that you do. Right? Either you use a mala or you just keep chanting throughout the day or whatever. That is Japa. Jalpam means prattling, talking without making sense. The chinna kulandaigalaam pesradhu vandu jalpam. It is referred to as when small kids that they talk, infants, when they're not able to form words and they talk something, that's called as a prattle or jalpam. In fact, Tamil, there is a very there is a term that's used in a derogatory sense. Enna valarra. So those are familiar with this term in Tamil. Enna valarra. Valarradhu appadina jalpam, which means you're saying something. Hindi mein it is said bakwas kar raha hai. Kya bakwas kar raha hai? So that term essentially means that you're saying something which doesn't make any sense. That is jalpam. So he is saying, may my prattle, may whatever I'm saying, nonsense, I'm saying things that make sense or things that don't make sense, may it become a japa. Okay. Then he is saying, the movement of my hands, shilpam, all the movements that I do with my hands, may it become sakalamapi mudra virachana. May it become mudras in your worship. So as you're familiar with, generally in Sri Vidya Upasana, there are many mudras that they use to offer worship to Devi. This is the one mudra. This mudra is called Anjali mudra. This is Anjali mudra. There are some simple mudras like that. When you sit like this is Chin mudra. Right? So there are many mudras like that. And in Sri Vidya tradition or Sri Vidya, when you're doing offerings to Devi, there are mudras that are used for the deepam, to invoke the deepa, the Agni or the Devi in the deepam. There are some mudras that you do. To do prana pratishtha, there are some mudras. There are some mudras that you use to do certain offerings to Devi. When you're doing Nevedyam. There are certain mudras that are used, right? So there are a lot of these mudras. In fact, even when you do Guru Paduka, there is a mudra, Mriga mudra. So there are many of these mudras that are used for different, to invoke certain energies within you and to tune yourself to that, what you're doing as a worship. So what Adi Shankar is saying is, may any movement that I do, may it be taken as a mudra in your worship. Okay. If I'm speaking some nonsense, you take it as your japa. If I'm doing some movements, you take it as though I am doing mudra for your worship. When I'm walking, just walking around, gatihi pradakshinyam kramanam, you take it as I am going around you. I am doing a pradakshana around you. I'm chumma walking around, you take it as though I am doing pradakshana. Ashanadyahuti vidhihi. If I'm eating something, you take it as though it is an oblation. Ahuti, I'm doing a ahuti or an oblation into the homa that I'm doing for you. Pranama samveshaha. In sleep, when I'm stretching my body, samvesha, I'm stretching my body. When I'm lying down and stretching my body, you take it as though I'm doing namaskara to you, prostrations to you. And all the enjoyments, the bhoga that I'm enjoying, you take it as though I am offering myself to you. Sukham akhilam atmarpanadrisha. Which means every activity that I do, karma that I do, you take it as though it is an act of worship to you. That is the meaning of this verse. So what Adi Shankara is telling Devi, and this is a very intimate conversation between him and Devi, between him and his Ishta. There's an intimate conversation. He is not saying that he will not teach this to students, for example. His disciples are there. He will not say, oh, you don't have to pray, or you don't have to do mudra, or you don't have to do pranam. You can just lie down and stretch yourself. You don't have to do pradakshana. You can just walk around. You don't have to do japa. You just do whatever chattering you want to do. He will not teach that to a disciple. That is the important point to note here. He will not teach that because.
And I think Adi Shankara also wouldn't have really meant this. Yeah.
So which is where I'm coming to. This is an intimate conversation between him and his Ishta, saying that, that's why I said this is an expression of one's state. This has to be seen that way. He is somebody who does sadhana. He is somebody who does nididhyasana. He is somebody who does mananam. He is somebody who's constantly engrossed in the thoughts of the divine. He is doing bhakti. He is doing all of that. Yet, there are times of the day when he is not doing that. So he is telling, even for that time period, suppose I am going to sleep, and suppose I'm walking from one place to another, suppose I'm visiting the toilet, suppose I am doing some chit chat with somebody. Oh mother, that duration I am not able to think about you. So please forgive me. You take it as though I am doing it for you. So somebody who is always in Bhagavad Chintana, somebody is always in God consciousness, he is recognizing that there are moments of slippage within me. For those moments of slippage, mother, it's human. I'm in a human form. I have a mind. I have conditions. I'm conditioned by this body and mind. So because I'm conditioned, I am not always able to be in that state of complete absorption, samadhi. I'm not able to be in samadhi all the time, thinking about you. There are times when I'm thinking about my mother. Right? Adi Shankara had a mother who lived for a period of time, right? Even after he took sannyasa. I have thoughts about that. When I'm talking to some people, for suppose he goes to a shop and he's wanting to buy something. Of course, I doubt that would have been the case. But I'm saying if he's transacting with somebody for something, then he's talking, I want this, can you give me this, I need this, can you put it like this, can you put this, that, this way, that way. These are not japa, right? These are not japa. But yet he's saying, even that, mother, because I am transacting in the world, I'm living in the world, I'm transacting, I'm talking something, don't miss out. Suppose you're telling Devi, okay, mother, I will think about you the whole day. I will do japa on your name. Shiva, you tell Shiva, I'm going to do japa. Om Namah Shivaya full. The whole day I'm going to do Om Namah Shivaya. But then there'll be times when you will not be able to. Your mind will slip. Either it'll go into sleep or you will get distracted by your environment. Now you've taken this resolve that you want to do it, but you're not able to because of your conditioning, because of the environmental conditioning, because of the tapatraya. Adi bhautika, adi daivika, adhyatmika. Tapatraya, constant interruptions that are happening. Then what you will tell? In your mind, you'll pray to Shiva. You'll say, Ayo, I want to do this, but I am not able to. Suddenly somebody comes to the door. I have to get up, open the door. A milkman, I have to take milk, I have to pay him money. Then you're telling in your mind, Shiva, oh Shiva, please don't discount the time that I'm doing this as not doing japa. When I'm getting up and going, that walking, please consider I'm walking around your linga, Shiva linga, in your kshetra. When I'm going and talking to that guy, think that I am doing japa. It's that feeling, right? The intensity of that feeling that I don't want to be in a state of not thinking about you. But my condition is such that there will be situations where I will not be able to think about you. So you, mother, you take it as though, right? So that is the beautiful feeling of surrender. So like, for example, if you're unwell, we are not able to get up and do in the puja room, you're not able to get up and do your evening prayers or whatever. But lying down, you can think, right? Instead of திட்டின்னு இருக்கிறதுக்கு பதிலா திட்டுறச்சேவது யோசிக்கலாம், பரவாயில்ல, கடவுளை இப்படி பண்ணிட்டே பரவாயில்ல, திட்டுறதையாவது we think about him. But while you're lying down, when you're thinking, instead of going into guilt, see, this Adi Shankara is giving us a way out of guilt. For whatever reason you're not able to do. Suppose you have to travel 1 hour to office every day, 1.5 hours to office every day, one way you have to travel. Use that time. You may not be able to sit down and do dhyana. You can't do it in the bus or the train or whatever vehicle you're traveling in. But your mind can think. Your mind can still focus on your ishta mantra, on your ishta japa, on your ishta whatever. Or you can listen to pravachanam. You can listen to, you can do shravanam. So those periods, he is giving you a way out of guilt. A lot of people, what happens is they fall into guilt. Oh, because of this, I'm not able to do this. Because I was, I was unwell, I couldn't go and do my puja. That's all right. In fact, there's somebody who spoke to me about a death in the family. There's somebody who, his mother died. I'm sorry, his father died. His father died, and the mother, the wife, so the mother was a very devout person. She would do her japa, her puja and all of that. Evening, her mantra, dhyana, chanting, whatever she'll do. She was, of course, sad and in grief that the husband died. Then I told this guy, this person was my friend, I said, I understand, but is she able to do her routines, her Nitya Anusandhana, whatever she is doing in terms of her chanting. And I was surprised. The guy told me that no, the Vadyar has told not to do any of this. I said, that's the most stupid thing I've heard. The Vadyar said that don't do chants, don't do reading of maybe Lalita Sahasranam, Vishnu Sahasranam, or shlokas and all that. Why? What is the problem? That is exactly the time you need to do this. That is the time. You may not go into the puja array and do all your lighting of the lamps and all that. That's all right. But then at least where you are, you can do your things, no? So people go into this. They'll say, okay, somebody is dead in the house. I will not do my chants. How can chants make it any worse? Chants will only make it better, right? Even if the Atma is after the death of the body, the Atma is still around. You're only offering it some kind of sadgati by doing chants or japa and all of that, thinking of that. Offer that. In fact, in my opinion, you should do it with much more. That's how my guru has taught me. You do it with much more fervor. You do it with so much more fervor and offer it to him or her, who has passed on. Correct. Generally, it is followed in all families. It's true. See, that is because grieving is important. Grieving is an important element of the whole death and dying and death process, because the Atma that leaves also wants to feel that it's grieved for. That sensation of grief has to be there in the environment. That doesn't mean, we're not saying you go and watch a movie, right? Grieving is there, but what will give you solace? What will give you solace? Solace is going to be sought only by doing the things that you like to do, which is if you're liking to do your the daily japa, puja, dhyana, whatever, that you should continue doing because it will give you relief. No. So Sri Vidyaji is asking if Atma beyond all these griefs. Unfortunately, no. The Atma that we're talking about, in its essence, yes, it is beyond all that. But that which leaves us, leaves this body. By what leaves this body is essentially the Sukshma Sharira, the subtle body. And the subtle body carries all the tendencies with it. All the vasanas and tendencies are carried. Which is why when this Sukshma Sharira is born into another body, it continues with those tendencies. You are born in this body. Even young children, you will see, they like some things, they don't like some things. They're afraid of some things, they are very brave about some things. Like my daughter is afraid of dogs. I have no reason why. We don't have any reason to say why she's afraid of dogs. There's no medical reason. Because there is some vasana that she's been carrying on from the previous lifetimes. And that's been from very young, as a child. How do you define that? These are tendencies. So the thing that leaves this body will go with these tendencies. Atma is like the innermost core. The Atma that we talk about as the Satchidananda Atma Swarupa, whatever consciousness, that's the innermost core. What you have over it is a layer of Sukshma Sharira, a subtle body, which also consists of the Karana Sharira, of course, the causal body. But that is what it is. What is dropped? Only the Sthula Sharira has dropped. The Sukshma still remains. So tendencies will still float around. That is why you do all of this after death. You do for 14 days. The Subha Swikaram and all that, you do that for 14 days. You do the whole completion is so that this particular entity that is now left, it's become disembodied. That's what it's called. You were embodied, now I am embodied. Now this drops. What remains is disembodied. That's all. Only body is dropped. Nothing else is dropped. Right? So that will continue, and it will continue on its journey. It will have its tendencies. Based on its tendencies, it will get born again somewhere, somehow, depending on a period of time. So when you're doing Shuddhikarana, when you're doing all of this, you're cleansing the subtle body. You're cleansing your vasanas. You're making more and more vasanas subdued so that the tendency doesn't proliferate. சட்டுன்னு கோவம் வரும் சில பேருக்கு. Why? தெரியாது. Don't know. That's a tendency that's carried forward, right? It's a tendency. You ask the person, he will say, "Ayyo, I don't know why, but I get angry like that." Then he has to work towards. Now, what is the working that you do? Spiritual sadhana, what you do? You work towards destroying that tendency slowly, and you replace it, or rather, the tendency dissolves in a way that the same situation comes after you're doing 20 years of sadhana. The same situation comes, you're no longer the same angry person. It's become your second nature to not be angry, which means your tendency is now become not angry. Earlier, your tendency was this angry person. Now your tendency has become not angry. So you bring the same stimulus, you'll not be angry anymore. How has this happened? Through the process of cleansing, through the process of clearing of your innate tendencies. So why did this story come up?
Question
correct. No, but I was thinking, where did we go into?
You were telling about a friend who
Correct.
asked
Correct,
his
correct. Correct. So the friend, so the point there is, you do, the point of guilt was the idea, right? So you don't go into guilt saying, I am not able to do this, that, and the other because of this reason. Nobody stops you from sitting and doing dhyana. If you sit and do dhyana, do you think something will get, okay, negativities around you will get disturbed? Only positive things will happen, right? At the same time, when you do introspection, when you do japa, when you do meditation, when you do sankirtana, you do all of this to ensure that you don't go into this guilt that because of this reason, because I was ill, because somebody died, I didn't do this, that. Don't go into that guilt. So Adi Shankara is giving a way out. He's saying, oh, tell in your mind, mother, I'm not able to get up now. I'm just lying down. Physically, I'm not able to. You take it as though I'm prostrating to you. Please. என்னால முடியல எழுந்துக்கிறதுக்கு. எனக்கு கஷ்டம். My body is not allowing me. You take it as though I'm prostrating to you. That bhavana, when that comes out, that becomes real prayer. That becomes real devotion. Right? Like there is a beautiful story of Guru Nanak. So Guru Nanak was lying down in a room. A bunch of people entered and they saw that there is a photo of Krishna. And Guru Nanak was lying and his feet was pointing to Krishna, the photo of Krishna. And he was lying down and resting. And then people came in saying, who's this guy lying down like this with his feet pointed out to the Lord? Then they come and rebuke him. They say that, don't you have respect and you're pointing your feet to God, all of that. Then he looks at them and says, okay, so where should I point my feet? He says, no, point it in this direction. No, there is God here, right? And he says, you say God is not here. So then they forcibly move his feet. The story goes that the photo of Krishna moves in the wall in the direction of his feet. And they move it another place, again the photo moves in the direction his feet is pointing. To prove to them that Krishna is everywhere. Absolutely. Vijayalakshmi ji. Elders say that Ramanama has no restrictions for anywhere, any time we can chant. Correct. So this way, Guru Nanak, the story is that in his mind, he was living this. He was resting. Guru Nanak was resting. But in his mind, he knows that oh God, I am prostrating to you. That's the bhavana with which he's resting. I know that you're everywhere. I'm prostrating to you. Is there a place that you're not? He actually feels it. Not for somebody to say, actually feel it, which is why this is a very intimate prayer. It's for one to feel within oneself that, how do I put it to practice? The same thing I tell even ladies who have the 3 days of a month, the cycles also. Maybe there are physical activities it restricts you from doing. But this doesn't stop you from thinking about Ambal, thinking about Devi, doing your regular japa. Don't excite or exert yourself, but continue to keep your mind in devotion. Listen to discourses, talks. Listen to chants. If you feel chanting is going to excite your body and exert your body, don't do that. You can listen. Mentally, you can do some japa. Right? In fact, we should use times like this when our body is down for whatever reason. You should use these times like these to increase some of these activities. I was down with shingles, if you all remember, for about 30-40 days, right? Night, I was not able to sleep at all. So full time YouTube, Nochur or somebody will constantly will be listening. Because that's the time body is down. And the world knows the body is down. So they'll say, Ayyo Pavam, shingles vandirthu, he is unwell. So it gives you greater opportunity to now put your mind into devotion, put your mind into, tuning yourself more and more. This is what this verse is offering us. He's saying that whenever there are conditions where you think you're not able to do what you need to do for your inner development, for your enriching yourself, for your own spiritual growth, if the things that you're supposed to do as action you're not able to do, sincerely make this prayer. Make this prayer sincerely. That is what Adi Shankara says. Japo jalpah shilpam sakalam api mudra virachana gatif pradakshinya kramanamashanaadyahuti vidhihi pranama samveshah sukhamakhilam atmarpanadrusha saparya paryayah tava bhavatu yanme vilasitam. Okay.
Thank you, Guruji. இது வந்து நீங்க இது சொல்லலைனாக்கா the most misunderstood stanza வந்திருக்கும்.
Correct.
நம்ம இதுல பகவத்கீதையில அந்த சர்வ தர்ம பரித்யாஜ்ய எல்லா தர்மத்தை விட்டுருங்க எப்படி நம்ம வந்து தப்பா புரிஞ்சுப்போமோ அது மாதிரி இதையும் வந்து தப்பா புரிஞ்சுக்கிறதுக்கு சான்ஸ் இருக்கு. ஓ சரி அவர்தான் சொல்லிட்டாரு நம்ம இல்லைனாலும் பரவாயில்ல அது அப்படின்னு நினைக்க கூடாது.
ஆமா.
பண்றதுல நடுவுல ஒரு க்ஷண நேரம் நான் வந்து மிஸ் பண்ணிட்டேன்னா அதை இந்த மாதிரி நினைச்சுக்கோன்னு ஒரு பிரேயர் ஃபார்ம்ல சொல்றாரு. ரொம்ப நல்லா இருக்கு. Thank you, Guruji.
That is the beauty about this. Otherwise, we shouldn't, like you're saying, it is. That is why some of this knowledge is not generally just given, just available to everybody, because it can be just mistaken. People go around, use these verses, and they'll say, "See, even Adi Shankara has said this." I'll stretch, and it's fine. She will take it as no. Do you have that feeling? Are you making an offering? That offering should come from within us, not to tell somebody else that I'm stretching means I'm prostrating. That's why it's a very intimate conversation between you and your Ishta.
ரமணர் சொன்னாரு சும்மா இரு அப்படின்னு ரமணர் சும்மா இருக்கு.
Exactly. Correct. So I'll pause the recording. We'll do the next one now. Sudhamapyaswadya pratibhayajara mrityuharinim vipadyante vishve vidhishatamakhadya vishit divishadah karalam yakshvelam kabalita vatah kalakalana na shambhostanmulam tava janani tatanka mahima. So this is in a poetic way. Adi Shankara is trying to tell the importance of Devi, even for Shiva. Which means if you tell Shiva is the main if Shiva is something that has to be attained, Shivoham, Shivoham, if I have to attain to Shiva, he's saying that Shiva doesn't make any sense without the recognition of Shakti, because he himself continues to exist because of Devi. So how is he bringing that in a poetic way? He's saying, even though the Devatas, which means Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, Indra, Adi, all the Devas, Surya, Agni, Chandra, all of them had what? They took the nectar of immortality, which came from the Sagar Manthan. From the churning of the Milky Ocean, the nectar came out. And that nectar, they fought for it, and the Devas won over it, right? And they drank. He's saying, even having drunk the nectar of immortality, they perish, they die. Because see, immortality, it's like, it is almost like saying, like fossils, for example. Today we find fossils that are 250 million years old, fossils that are 300 million years old, 500 million years old, which means those fossils have lived for so many years. Now, there is this, I told you, there is a Life on Our Planet series that is on Netflix. It shows that creation, life on this planet began about 4 billion years ago. Billion, not million, billion years ago. 4 billion years ago. Which means which means there is some evidence they figured out somewhere. Something under the seabed, in the ocean bed, somewhere something would have been there, and they would have done some carbon dating on that, and they would have figured out that this particular thing existed 4 billion years ago. Okay. So it has lived for 4 billion years ago. And they say that Earth was created about 13 to 14 billion years ago. Earth as a planet was created as part of the bang that happened. It came out of the sun, and it was about 14, 15 years ago. This whole universe, actually the universe got created, the universe that we know as, got created about 14 billion years ago. There's some evidence that they figured out that's there. So now something that is sustained, that is lived for 4 billion years, for them to now do carbon dating on it, it is almost like immortal. 4 billion is a huge amount of time. Correct? A huge years. We are talking about 4 billion years. Right? Now look back our history. We are talking about Krishna, Rama. Krishna lived 5,000 years ago. Rama lived 7, 8, 9,000 years ago. And that seems so distant. And still we are talking about less than 10,000 years. You go a step, 100,000, then a million, then 10 million, 100 million, billion. So look at the scale, the cosmic scale we're talking about, right? So if you consider such large scales of time, it will appear as immortal. It will appear anything that lives beyond your imaginable scale of time, it is immortal. But is it really immortal is the question. Because it's come into creation, it has to disintegrate. It has to be destroyed and dissolve. Disintegrate and dissolve. How long it takes, that's a different point in question. So the point is, even if you find fossils that are many, many million years in the past, in a few million years, it will definitely disintegrate completely. Right? So the point here is, if Brahma and Vishnu and Shiva, we say they had the nectar of immortality, they took the Amritam. Amritam means Amrita, there is no death. Which means, in a conceivable amount of time, it is immortal. But at the same time, we know that the whole cycle of time, even Brahma dies, even Vishnu, Shiva, they die and they are reborn. Of course, we won't experience that ever. But in Srimad Bhagavatam, it is mentioned. Right? It's clearly, we also understand that creation didn't come from, it came from nowhere. It came into existence, it will get dissolved, and there'll be another creation that will come. There are theories that says that there have been 83 different creations that have happened, and this is the 84th one. There are, right? So there are things like that being told, which means this thing keeps going on and on. Now the point is, what Adi Shankara is pointing to that. He's saying that if you thought that by taking this, they are immortal, devatas are immortal, and you want to attain to Pitruloka, Devaloka, Swargaloka, Indraloka, Brahmaloka also, no point. And Shiva here, by it doesn't mean that Sadashiva, right? It doesn't mean that ever existing consciousness. No. Here Shiva means that aspect which is responsible for dissolution. It is a function head. So these people will die and will be reborn. A new Brahma will come, a new Indra will come. Like they say, this Manas, this is what this Manu is called as Vaivasvata Manu.
Vaivasvata Manvantara.
This Manvantara, or this particular period, the head of this is a Manu, a particular Manu. Manu is the one who gives the code of conduct for Manavas. We are called Manavas because we follow the code of conduct and follow the way of life laid out by Manu. And this current Manu is Vaivasvata. Even in our Panchangam, you will notice that some of these things will change. So Vaivasvata Manu means there are other Manus that were there. Other heads. Prajapati, there is a Daksha Prajapati. There are different Prajapatis that have lived. He is a Brahma's Manasaputra. So all of these entities that come into being dissolve and disintegrate and go away, and new ones come in its place. Okay. So what Shankara is saying is that, but Sadashiva, even though he took poison, did not get destroyed ever. See, he's just drawing the paradox. He's showing that these people took Amrita, but they are dying and perishing and going away. Sadashiva took poison. So the ones who took Amrita, they are dying. The one who took poison continues to live. And he is...
So he is one dimension higher.
Correct. Multidimensional at a different dimension, existing at a different dimension. But what the point here is he's saying is that this existence of Shiva, Sadashiva in this case, right? It's not part of the Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva. The Sadashiva, or this primordial consciousness that is ever existing, it cannot be destroyed by time. It cannot be destroyed by time. And it continues to exist, and he is ascribing that existence to Devi's Tatanka. He's saying that he is able to withstand the poison that he consumed and didn't succumb to the poison. He continues to live forever, is because of your Tatanka. So in essence, he is the one who's immortal, even though he has taken the poison. So what it means, Sudham apyaswadya, even after consuming nectar, pratibhaya, fear, old age, and death. It removes. What removes? This nectar removes the fear of old age and death. Sudham apyaswadya, pratibhaya, jara, mrityu, harinim. It removes the fear of old age and death. Yet, those who have consumed it, vipadyante, they perish. Brahma, Indra, and others, and the Devatas, they perish. Having consumed it, they perish. Correct. Tirvanikaval has that. She is called Akhilandeshwari. Then Karalam Yatshvelam Kabalitavata Kala Kalana. So this person, this individual, Sadashiva, your husband, he has taken poison, and yet he is not subject to death. Na Kalakalana. Na Kalakalana is in the next. Kalakalana na Shambhoho. Na Kalakalana. Tat Moolam. What is the reason of it? The reason is, O mother, Tava, O Janani, Tatanka Mahima, the greatness of ear ornaments. Now, it seems very suddenly, I mean, you're reading from the starting, it feels, oh, okay, there's something interesting going to come. And then suddenly it's because of your ear ornaments. சம்பந்தமே இல்லாத என்னது இது அப்படி வேற ஏதோ சொல்ல போறேன்னு நினைச்சோம் நாங்க அப்படின்னா இது என்ன புசுன்னு போயிடுதே அப்படி
சினிமா பார்த்து
ஆமா கிளைமேக்ஸ் டக்குன்னு இப்படி climax is so it's not very interesting. See, the important thing here is what does Tatanka indicate and what Sadashiva indicates and what poison indicates. You need to look at that. Right? Maybe I'll take a additional 5 minutes and we'll close it. Okay. See, Tatanka 1 is the representation of let's look at what Sadashiva represents. Sadashiva, we said, it represents this consciousness that is ever present. Sat Chit Ananda. Truth, consciousness, bliss. Existence, truth, existence, bliss. Which means there is no time that it did not exist. At least in your experience, you will never be able to experience that you did not exist. How much ever amount of time we may go into something like a coma or whatever, you will never experience your non-existence. You'll never be able to experience your own non-existence. The moment you experience, you will experience existence only, because experience happens in existence. Forget what the scriptures say. Your experience is happening in existence. Right? So in your own experience, you don't go non-existent. You cannot become na abhavo vidyate sataha. Which means that this thing that is there, it can never go into non-existence. So that is the presence. Now, what is poison? Poison is any amount of distortions that occur in this presence, any kind of distortions, either it's amrita or poison. If it's good, bad, evil, virtue, whatever that occurs in this, it will never be impacted. This presence that is there, it will never be impacted. This is also something that one has to experience. One has to notice that in oneself. The presence that we carry of ourselves, we have never been non-existent, and it has also never changed. The way you experience yourself as a child, as a middle-aged person, as a youth, as a middle-aged person, as a grown-up old person about to die, the I that you experience is exactly the same. Think about it. The way you perceive yourself may be different, which means maybe the way you see things, that may be different. The way you understand things may be different. Your capabilities may be different. Your skills may be different. All of that may be different. But the I that you carry, school, just think about yourself in school. You still carried the feeling, the presence of I, right? That presence of I was there. And it didn't matter. It didn't matter whether somebody praised you, you would have gone through terrible times in your life, or you would have gone through great times in your life. The I doesn't care, right? It remains undisturbed. You may have become wise now. You may have become wise to recognize that I is undisturbed now. At that time, maybe you didn't recognize it, but the I always remained undisturbed. See, when you become wise to recognize that the I remains undisturbed, it doesn't mean in the past it got disturbed. No, you've got the wisdom that it never gets disturbed. That is what is happening. So when jnanam comes, it doesn't matter. All you recognize is it didn't matter also then. Appo it didn't matter. Ippo also it doesn't matter. It will not matter in the future also. That is the poison. So whatever you consume, whatever you're coming in contact with, it will not impact. Sadashiva remains. And then he says, what makes you recognize this? What makes you recognize this is the ornaments, the tatanka of Devi. One way of looking at the tatanka is, like Kalpaka mentioned, for Akhilandeshwari, there are two Sri Chakras in Adi Shankara's, Adi Shankara, when he installed the Sri Chakras on her ears, he installed that or when he installed the ear ornaments for Akhilandeshwari, those were Sri Chakras there. In fact, if you go to the temple, they will specifically show Aarti near Ambal's Tatanka to show the Sri Chakra. Very beautiful. It's pretty large. Now, what does this Tatanka indicate? In other shlokas you would have seen, it is Surya Chandra, the Ida and the Pingala. The two aspects that are existing as duality in nature, when that duality is balanced between the left and the right, when that duality merges into what is known as the Sushumna, then this experience of Sadashiva is there. Which means you experience the world, which is poison, yet because you are in the balance of the Ida and the Pingala, because you are in the Sushumna, because you are able to not be beaten by the duality, you exist as Sadashiva. So here he is bringing in fact, one of the things that I was reading, this particular shloka is important to drive away illnesses. See, each shloka of Saundarya Lahari has a phalashruti. Okay, it has some kind of an effect. When you chant it so many number of times, you do it like a particular ritual for a mandala, whatever. Each shloka has a certain effect. Some shlokas give you certain powers. Some shloka gives you well-being. Some shlokas give you. People are wanting to get married. Also, there are some shlokas. You want to have a child. There are some shlokas. Because these are all mantra shastras, right? So these, it's Dhanvantri Jayanti, is it? Very nice. Dhanteras, yeah. So this, you're right. So this is interesting. This is a shloka for well-being. Now, well-being, what is spiritual well-being? We look at spiritual well-being. Spiritual well-being is when you're balanced within you, when your Ida and Pingala, when the Tatankas within you are balanced, when the Surya and the Chandra are balanced within you, then you remain as Sadashiva without the impact of the poison, the hala poison that you consume, which is the world, which is samsara. So he's saying this state of Sadashiva in you is offered. So when you meditate upon Devi, and it's also bringing your attention to that meditation. So when you meditate upon Devi and you meditate upon the Tatanka, which is Sri Chakra, when you meditate upon Sri Chakra and you consume the Sri Chakra within you, you become the Sri Chakra, then in fact this happens. What happens is when your energies are aligned within you in perfect harmony, then your body becomes like the Sri Chakra in its energy form. The body becomes an energy form of Sri Chakra when the energies are aligned. So what he's saying is that when you're meditating upon Devi, so this is what he is telling us. By saying that Shiva took the poison and he didn't die is because mother, your Tatanka is so great. The point is, oh mother, your Tatanka is so great that I meditate upon you, I attain to the Shivoham state. And I am not disturbed by the poisons. And I am not trying to glorify or trying to achieve to Indraloka, Brahmaloka, Devaloka. No, I don't want those things. Swargaloka, no. I am looking to achieve the Shiva Tattva. Right? So this is the way you read it. You read it from down. Oh mother, your Tatanka is so beautiful. I meditate upon it. Now, what is the Tatanka of mother's ears? It is Sri Chakra, which means I meditate upon the Sri Chakra. I meditate upon the various aspects of Sri Chakra, the Mahameru, the form, the shape, the energy, the mantras, the whatever. I meditate upon it. It allows me to enter into Shivoham, into the state of Sadashiva, where the poisons of the world, the samsara, will not affect me. I will remain timeless. I will not be beaten up by this thought or feeling that I am limited. I am consumed by time. I am not consumed by time. I am not limited. I attain and I understand that my state of Amrtatvam, when I use the Tatanka as my path of meditation, Sri Chakra as my meditation. Right? So this is what Adi Shankara is trying to say with this particular shloka.
அம்பாளோட தாட்டங்கத்துக்கு எப்பவுமே மகிமை இருந்திருக்குன்னு தெரியுது. அபிராமி பட்டர் சொல்றாங்க.
ஆமா, அபிராமி பட்டரும் சொல்றாரு. கரெக்ட்.
எல்லா இடத்துலயும் தாட்டங்க 2-3 இடத்துலயும் படிச்சேன் நானு. தேவியோட காது தோட்டுக்கு அவ்வளவு வேல்யூ இருக்குங்கிறது வேற எதுலயும் ஒண்ணுல படிச்சேன் நானு. வெல் நோன் overseas அபிராமி பட்டர்.
Correct. Abhirami Bhattad, many parallels you can draw with Saundarya Lahari and Abhirami Bhattar's experience. In fact, Abhirami Bhattaroda experience, she threw the Tatanka from her ears and into the sky and became the full moon layer. So that's the whole experience of Tatanka that he had. So Tatanka, in many ways, the ear ornament, essentially it represents, as we said, it represents the Sri Chakra. And in fact, in many ways, it also stabilizes your... See, this is something, just an interesting side fact, right? Which we are all familiar with, which is one of the reasons why you pierce a hole in the ear, is you activate the nerves here. One of the reasons you do the Topukaranam, right? Children are asked to do that is because when you pull these earlobes, and Tatanka is a big jimmicky type of earlobe, when you're actually pressing here, it helps activate your brain. I wouldn't say necessarily brain activity. It kind of improves your intelligence and improves your ability to perceive. Your perception improves. Not just intelligence and activity, but also perception.
already when someone is just making up, I mean, literally means that, when someone has already got that perception of, how things would really work. And when someone is making it, they can just, they just know. Because
I have attained to a certain perception. I have attained to a certain perception. You can't fool me. That is what it means. I understand. Okay? So that is the Tatanka Mahima. Om Kayena Vacha Manasendriyerva Buddhyatmana va Prakriti Subhava Karomi Yatyat Sakalam Parasmai Narayanayati Samarpayami Sadashivayati Samarpayami Jagadambikayati Samarpayami Sadgurunathayati Samarpayami Hari Om Tat Sadgurubhyo Namah.